All right, so excited to be able to sit down and talk again. Like I said, it feels like we are like long lost friends. Excited to talk about your journey. Obviously, it's been a journey that spanned across a couple different sight lines within college basketball and even professional basketball. Lately, I've been doing a lot of conversations about life after the air comes out of the ball. After that last game is played, that last shot is sunk, what that looks like. So I think that you bring a lot of valuable information, a lot of valuable knowledge to the girls that are kind of looking at it and thinking, okay, it's over after college, or it's over after they're done playing. So I think that there's a lot that you bring to the table, an interesting dynamic, and I'm excited to have you on and talk to you today.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I appreciate your kind words, and there's so much after the game, at least after you stop playing it, that you don't even realize, and so much about the game that you don't even know if you still stay in the realm of basketball. So it's really cool.
So let's kind of stay on brand there and stay aligned with outside of the lines, or beyond the ball. So who are you, like, away from the game of basketball? What are the things that make you you?
I would say my faith and my family are the biggest things. Faith first and foremost. Everything that I have, everything that I am is because of God. The talent that I've been able to have and amass, and the opportunities have allowed me to travel the world, for basketball and also with my family, but to see certain things, to see different cultures, to understand myself and other people even better. And my family is my biggest support system. I would never be where I am without, not only just my mom, my dad, but like my grandmother, my aunts, my extended family, who are now, I call my aunties, my sisters, like my best friends, people that I really call home, right? That's where my heart is. And so those people have helped me to get through those tough times overseas, or get through the ACL injuries. And I hope that I've helped them as well. But that's who I am. I'm a woman of faith. I'm a woman of family.
Awesome. So you talked a little bit about kind of, the injuries, the hard times, the tough times. Let's touch on the high points, right? Like, let's start there. I think it's so, some people say ironic, but I just think it's so aligned that, being a Philly girl, you grew up watching Dawn Staley. You saw, the things that she did both at the collegiate level and the professional level, and now as a coach. And then you followed in her footsteps, going to University of Virginia, and had the opportunity to break her record, the record of, ACC career assists, 785, that's your record. Talk to me a little bit about that journey. Talk to me a little bit about growing up, having somebody that looked like you, having somebody that you could relate to kind of set as that barometer of greatness and chase behind there.
I mean, relatability is everything, right? Being able to see someone that I really related to. I saw Dawn. She's like 5'6", 5'7", right? Like, I was like, that's where I'm going to be, a point guard, a Black woman. And I was like, man, that's what I want to be. That's who I want to be. I just loved her grit. I loved how she carried herself. I loved how she played the game. I've always been really little. I couldn't shoot for anything. So I had handles and I could pass the ball. The Lord blessed me with some court vision. So seeing how she played the game and how she was just a leader and, the consummate point guard, I absolutely loved it. And like you said, I got to watch her, hear about her, the stories in Philly. She was on billboards. She was on like walls every time I drove over the bridge. She was a legend. And as a woman, right? Like, at that point, there was no WNBA. And there was the ABL at first. And she was still doing those things in Philly and had that much respect. And I loved that. And she earned it, right? She was a straight warrior. She was a winner. Everything she did, she touched turned to gold. And so going to Virginia was an easy choice for me. To be able to follow in her footsteps, to be honored to just be in the same sentence as her, was really, really cool for me to be able to break that record, which, was one of my main goals, stepping on ground. So like you said, it was cool. And it was really important for me, being that it was a woman that looked like me that I could emulate my game after. When I was playing outside by myself, it wasn't 3-2-1 shoot. I was like 3-2-1, hit a pass, bang, they're finishing. Like, that's how I wanted to play, because that's what I saw from Dawn.
That's awesome. So, you touched on something, and I think it's an interesting story. You touched on, coming on campus and having that goal. And I think it's important. The goal setting is important, and having a goal, having something that you give yourself that, hey, I'm going to get this. And this is, something that can motivate you, through the good times, the bad times, through whatever. Just the importance of having a goal, the importance of having, like I tell people all the time, I would rather identify what I want it to look like at the end and then reverse engineer it than jump into it and figure it out as we go. So talk to me about how you set that goal for that record. Tell me about the shoes, kind of fill me in on that.
So we talked about this before, like looking back on it, it was like, man, I was like this arrogant little 17-year-old, like coming in thinking I was all that, right? I was like, man, this is what I want to do. But in no way did I mean disrespect by it. It was a straight honor for me to even think about getting it. So the goal was 729, right? That was the University of Virginia assist record, as well as the Atlantic Coast Conference record. So my first pair of shoes that we got for summer, I wrote 729 on the shoes. And so for me, that was just a reminder in everything that I was doing, right? Whether it was practice and I was dead tired and I was like, man, I can't go anymore. And I looked down at the shoes and was like, I bet you Dawn didn't say she couldn't, right? Like, so if it was a sprint, if it was in the weight room, if it was something that I felt like, oh man, like this is a struggle, I can't do it, I looked down and that was just a big reminder. And I think the goal setting part allowed me to get through those tough days, right? Having a goal, no matter what it was, it doesn't have to be something that's a number. It doesn't have to be something that's, ACC assist record. It has to be something that's attainable for you, but something that you have to actually strive for, not something you're going to get like this, right? So something that's extremely difficult for you to get. And for me, it got me through those tough days, those days when college basketball is not pretty, when those 5 a.m. runs, when I didn't want to be there, those times when coach was on my butt talking trash to me, and I was like, man, I don't know why she's talking to me like this. And I was like, well, that's the same coach that talked to Dawn, and she was 20 years younger. So I'm sure she was giving it to her as well, right? It allowed me to remember why I was doing it. And it wasn't necessarily just the number of assists, like a selfish thing. It was Dawn got 729 and she got the Final Fours. Dawn made this university what it is. She helped to build a career and build a legacy starting from here. And so I thought to myself, well, if I can beat 729, well, hopefully I can get a couple wins in the meantime and get my teammates to look really good, as we're doing it. So that's kind of where that came from.
That's amazing. And I think that, having the mindset that if I reach my goal, if I set this record, that means that I've done a good job making everybody around me better. So ultimately, it elevates the team and it puts the team at a higher level. And, I always loved, and I've always, maybe like you said, it's the relatability, me being a smaller guy. I always loved the players that, like the Chris Pauls, right, that would say, I'm going to get everybody around me better, right? Like Jason Williams back in the day with the flashy passes, and you're like, okay, that he's going to set everybody around him up for success. So, by you having that unselfish approach, even within your individual goals, it allowed you to reach an elite level of success on the court. ACC records, gold medal, USA U19 team, drafted in the WNBA, which, like you said, didn't even exist when you were a child, and also playing and setting records overseas. Talk to me a little bit about how that journey and all the things within that journey, both the positives, the negatives, the growth in general, how it's prepared you for success now as a coach.
It showed me that not everything is pretty, right? Not everything is going to go how you plan it to. I've been blessed to be able to walk on grounds at University of Virginia and to have a goal, and I actually attain that goal. But I've also had to hit some low moments where I had to get uncomfortable. And I really think that your biggest growth comes in your stages of discomfort. So when you're uncomfortable, when you've got to step outside of who you are and what you do naturally, when you've got to lean on your faith, when you've got to lean on your hard work and you just got to be like, well, I don't see it right now, but I know it will pay off. When you have to do those things, whether it's in basketball or life, that's when you really succeed. I was blessed with things like WNBA, with being able to get gold medals. But even if I didn't, the journey of it all really was what my success was. Being able to have a career of 11 years playing professional. I didn't have to see it to know that I was winning, in life, that I was growing, that I was maturing, that I was being able to meet my wife, that I was making my family happy and proud. Those were the things that were the big winners. But I came through that in all of my failures, in the times when I had 7 turnovers in a game. And I was like, oh, like, am I made for this? My first year at UVA, I was like, I'm talking about a cis record. I might get the turnover record. Like, what's going on, right? Or when I was like really excited my senior year, thinking I might get drafted first, second round. And I was the first name called in the 3rd round. My dream was to get drafted into the WNBA. And then when it got 3rd round, I was a little disappointed. But that made me now work harder to want to go overseas and kill. Every time I stepped on the court, I wanted to kill. And so, those moments of failure, those moments of discomfort were actually the biggest things that helped me catapult my life and my career.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you touched on something. You and I, we've talked about it, and that's gratitude and appreciation, right? Like thinking back on it, looking at it in retrospect, and last time we talked, you talked about not being able to really enjoy the moment, because within the moment we're so focused on what we think that moment should look like, or we're so focused on the next thing on our to-do list or the next thing on our goal list, that we don't really take the time to appreciate and understand the impact. And like you said, I mean, ACC records, gold medal, being drafted in the WNBA, all things that you put on a wiki link or you put in a bio, and they're absolutely amazing, right? So you've done a lot and you've had a lot of success. At what point did you know coaching was the next thing for you?
I went through stages. I think, when I was in college, I was like, yeah, when I'm done playing, I'm going to be a coach, right? Coach Ryan was like, take psychology. This will help you be a coach. And I'm like, exactly. That's what I'm going to do. And then I got to about year 5 overseas. And, I was living like seasonal life. I don't even remember what year things were. I just remember, like, was it the 2010, 2011 season? I was living that way and signing contracts year to year. Right. And so I was like, man, do I want to continue this? Like, that's the same thing as coaching. It's the same type of thing. You sign contracts and 24/7 you're on call, 365 you're on call for kids. And do I want to do that? I know I want to be around the game, but do I want to do it? And I came home one summer, and the AAU team that I played for, the Philly Bells, was like, listen, coach that I played for, actually, he was like, I'm going to take the team. I want you to help me. And I'm like, man, like 14, 15, 16-year-old girls. I wasn't really where I am with patience and all that. I'm like, I remember what I was like at that point. I'm not sure, coach. And he was like, you'll be perfect. And after the first week, man, I just loved it. Like, being able to talk to my kids and show them a move and see them do it. It was 10 times more gratifying than when I taught myself a move, right? Or when I worked out for 10 hours and then felt like did a move in a game. It was so gratifying to be able to see that you can help change kids' lives and their careers just by being a coach. And you can do so much more as a coach than even as a player. And so at that moment, I realized this is exactly what I want to do. And the age group is college, because this is when you grow the most. These 4 years are the best years of your life, the craziest 4 years of your life, but they're really when you grow and figure out who you want to be when you become, an adult.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So your journey literally is taking you around the world, and then it brought you back to Philly, right? Where it all pretty much started. Where you like you said, you grew up watching Dawn Staley and all the things that she did, and now stepping into the coaching arena and the coaching side of things. Once again, you're seeing Dawn as an example. You're seeing her as kind of that. We talked about relatability, right? Seeing her have the success that she's having. Are you still looking up to her now, just in a different light?
Absolutely. I mean, Dawn is always that person. We've talked several times, right? I almost never get speechless. I've got plenty of words for everything. I've been speechless 2 times in my life. When I first met Dawn Staley and when I first met Allen Iverson. That's the only 2 times you will ever see me not talking. And Dawn is just that person for me, right? I've been able to see her grow. And like I said, everything she touches turns to gold. And being a coach is no different. When she went to Temple, they went and they won, right? She got Candace Dupree there. And doing it the right way. Building relationships with these kids. She went to South Carolina, a program that nobody knew, and now they're, number 1 in the country. Got number 1 draft picks. And I think it's genuine. I think she's a woman of faith. She's a woman that is really authentic in who she is. What you see is what you get. She holds her kids accountable, but she has a personal relationship with them to help them grow as players and help them grow as people. And you can tell by how many people come back, how they interact with her on social media. And I think that that's really dope. I don't think that you can change these kids' lives or help them grow if you don't know them and you don't take time to build that relationship and you don't really care about them personally. Kids can see through that, no matter if we want to believe it or not. Kids can see through you just needing them to play. They want to know that you care about them, that that you really want to know how they're doing in their days. And I think she does that. So I try and emulate that in everything that I do, especially now as a coach.
Absolutely. You touched on, just the relationship building, the being genuine, being relatable, being there. And a lot of times when we talk about coaching, we talk about relationship building from a standpoint of, networking and building relationships to climb and to grow within your career. But you touched on it from a different perspective. You touched on it from investing into those young ladies as people, and being there, being genuine, having those true kind of mentor to student relationships. Talk to me a little bit about the importance of your background, your educational background. You talked briefly about your coach saying, hey, this is something that you should look into if you're going to be a coach. Talk to me about how that's helped you along this journey, and the importance of just understanding the mental health and mental well-being of the people you're coaching, understanding how to treat each person individually, get the most out of them, and really, not take that, all in approach, right? Or that this is the way I'm coaching every single player. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I'm by no means a psychology expert, right? But being able to understand the psychology behind things is extremely helpful. I would have, before I took classes and before I finished my degree, I would have taken everyone at face value. And from my own experiences. So some of my teammates when I was growing up, I thought that my normal was their normal. Mm-hmm. I thought that my reaction should be their reaction. And when it wasn't, I was like, well, what's going on? Not realizing that everyone has different things that make them tick. Everyone isn't allowed to show their feelings. Everyone doesn't have a range of feelings from disappointed, emotional. They have maybe angry, shut down, or sad. That might be it. That might be the range of emotion that they know how to articulate. And so being able to understand that everyone has a different level of emotion, everyone has a different way that you need to approach them, to deal with them, how they deal with trauma, how they deal with disappointment, how they deal with stress. Understanding that, especially as a coach, is extremely helpful. We look at our kids and we're like, be strong, don't show emotion. You can't get all up and down. You need to stay even keel. Well, that's easy to say if that's how you live your life, but sometimes it's not, right? So when my kid gets upset and they shut down, I have to understand, well, maybe that's how they deal with their emotions. How can I now get them to understand, listen, when you shut down, you can't hear me. Your teammates don't know what you're thinking. How can I approach that in a better way, in a more mature way, in a more understanding way that can help them grow, but also let them know that, hey, I understand where you're coming from. I understand where you are right now, and let's get you to a better place, step by step. And so I think at this age, it's really important, for me to deal with the kids, the age group that I do, 17 to 22 years old, they're extremely emotional, right? You're going through some of the craziest times of your life. And so to be there for them and to be able to understand them outside of just the basketball court, understand how they think, how they feel, what makes them tick, what motivates them, those things are extremely important, and how I can get the best out of them in the classroom, on the court, and off the court, right? In their regular lives. So that's really important. And the time that we're going through, I mean, these kids are going through COVID. They're going through social injustice. They're going through protest. They're going through the trauma of seeing people be killed on social media like every other week, it seems like. That's tough. And that's tough for adults to see. That's tough for adults to articulate and to deal with. So I can't imagine how they feel. And so being able to just try and give them a listening ear and understand it from a different perspective, I think has been extremely helpful for me.
I mean, you just touched on, without a doubt, it's hard enough coaching collegiate athletes, right? Like, and I have daughters. I have daughters and sons, and I feel like now at this point in life, social media brings in a whole different component that we didn't have, when we were going through, the collegiate. When I was playing in college, I didn't have to look online and hear about how bad of a game I had, right? Like, I remember, I'll never forget, I had a bad game. When I was at Howard, we played against North Carolina A&T, and I had a bad game, and I didn't want to walk on campus for 2 days, right? And playing football, hey, you got another game coming up that next Saturday, so you better get over it real quick. But, and that was just in person, right? Like, I didn't want to bump into somebody that would remind me of how bad of a game I had. But these kids are literally, they have to go on social media and know that everything they do is going to be judged, from the way they look to the way they perform to, just whatever. So on top of that normal stress of being a college athlete, all the things you mentioned, from COVID to social injustice, you name it. Talk to me a little bit about how, you've been able to utilize your training, utilize, your experiences, being in their shoes, and be able to relate to them and help them to, understand that, hey, let's talk about it, let's figure it out, and then let's continue to perform.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, listen, these kids are dealing with a lot. Social media is always a reminder of either how great you are or how awful you are, right? Like, when you do well, it's like, yeah, you're getting thousands of likes, everybody in your comments, like, you are the best, you're the GOAT, all this. And then when you do bad, there's nobody there to pick you up. It's always like, oh man, terrible game. When it seems like people behind computers and people behind phones have a lot more courage than somebody saying it in person. And so for me, I just try and just tell my kids, like, you can't get too high or too low. Right? Those people are going to love you when you're good and hate you when you're bad. And half the time they don't love you as much as they're trying to show, and they don't hate you as much as they're trying to show. Right. So if it's not your family, if it's not somebody that's going to be with you in the gym, if it's not somebody that's really affecting your life, you can't rely on that. You can't allow them to make you feel good about yourself, and you can't make them feel bad about yourself, because you're just going to be here. And so, I'm actually in charge of, like, being on my kids' social media. So they all have to add me, which is a gift and a curse, by the way, because I have to see the nonsense they put up. But it's good because I can kind of see what's going on. And so one thing I will always do is have my kids back. So if I ever see some comments, we're going to have some issues, right? Like, I'm going to be on there having their back, but they have to be able to deal with it and say, listen, I can't give somebody else power. If you give someone power over your emotions just by some words on a screen, well, then we got a whole deeper problem that we got to dive into. Yeah,
no doubt. And you touched on, I mean, once again, it's not just affecting the collegiate athletes, but COVID, the social injustice, but mainly COVID, right? And the way that's adjusted from a recruiting standpoint, you guys aren't able to get out like you have in the past. It's just changed the entire landscape. What is it that a girl can be doing right now to continue to get on your radar, continue to develop and give herself the opportunity to play at the next level if that's her dream?
That's a great question. I think just work. Listen, the one thing that's always going to be there is work, hard work, right? In competition. So COVID gives us all different challenges. For some people, it's, they can only get into a gym 5 days a week, not 7. For some people, they can't get into a gym at all, right? So you got to find ways to get yourself better no matter what. So if that means you can't get into a gym, well, then you better be the best in the best condition that you can be when we get out of here. You can go outside. Outside is enclosed, right? You can go outside and run some miles. Your ball handling better be on point. You need a basketball and some concrete. And if you really get creative, you can get on the grass and your handles will be even that much better, right? So you need a basketball and that's it. Make sure you're working on your game so that when you are able to play, whether that be high school, whether that be AU, whether it be fall ball, pickup games, I really don't care. No matter what that is, that you're ready for your opportunity. And then the next thing is send us film, right? When you are on those high school games, because some people are able to play, or you have those AAU games, we're checking our email. I'm checking my email every single day, right? During the height of COVID, I was checking like 50 emails of game film, and I'm watching all of them. I don't have a choice not to, right? Like this is my second year. I'm watching every single game. So it's out there. Coaches will find you. You just have to go do the legwork now. We can't go into a gym with 1,000 games a day and there from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Now you got to do a little bit of work, and you've got to advocate for yourself, and you have to have coaches and AAU coaches and high school coaches that are willing to make those calls and kind of be annoying, right? Send those emails. Make sure if you're writing their names correctly. Be careful of the mass emails. Send them out. And just when they reply back to you, if they can, make sure that you're ready. Make sure you're ready with any game film. You're there on your social media pages. Pin up at the top, your huddle film. Pin what year you are, what position you play, your height. Those type of things are really important. Your GPA. Let's not forget about that part. Those things are important. Pin that. Use social media as a tool. We're all on it. Yep. Right? We're all on there. Use that as a recruiting tool. Tag us in those things. Listen, at Sharnee Zoll, tag me. I'm watching the video. I'm watching those things. So make sure you do that and do a little legwork and don't be embarrassed to do it, because that's where we are right now.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's either we can make it an excuse so we can get frustrated about it, or we can, find a way to overcome it. And I think that you gave some great advice, some great direction for those student athletes that are looking for an opportunity to get seen. Looking for an opportunity to continue to play at the next level. And I think that, you and I talked about that before, just the amount of time, coaches aren't as much on the road, right? They're not recruiting as much. So there is more time and more availability for you to see some of those emails that maybe might have slipped by the wayside a year ago, right? Talk to me a little bit about, we talked earlier about representation. We talked a little bit about relatability. Talk to me about, just the importance of seeing a woman like Dawn having the success she's having, when obviously, as you look at head coaches in NCAA women's basketball, you clearly see that lack of representation for women of color. Talk to me about the importance of seeing Dawn have the success that she's having, and some of the hopes that you have for, Black women as they continue to, as Black women moving forward within college basketball.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think somebody, even like a Rhode alum, down at Ole Miss, right? Seeing people, whether they were the best of the best as players, getting opportunities, to be head coaches, to now help to grow our young women, right? That look like us, to be relatable for our young women, or people who were like, listen, an A-10 school, now she's at an SEC school. She's at Ole Miss getting top recruits. Right? That's huge. Worked her way up, right? That kind of stuff is really, really huge for us to see. And I think it really is important. I think there are certain things that, that you go through as women of color that you can help your kids get through. I'm a little bit skeptical always about talking about some of these things, especially being I'm so new to the business. This is only the start of my second year, here in the business. But the one thing that I always will know is that representation matters. Right? Kamala Harris being the vice president-elect is huge for women, but for women of color, we never were able to dream that we would be in the White House outside of being married to someone. Now it's like, no, we're there. We're at the table. We're making these decisions. And I see somebody that looks like me, so I know for sure. It's not just a dream anymore. It's not the first girl in the NBA. It's the WNBA now. Right. It's for us now, you make that thing tangible. You make it something that I can see this, I can do it. And now our dreams are that much higher. Our goals, we talked about that. Our goals are that much higher. And now what we're reaching, how we're reaching is huge. And no matter what it is, especially in women's basketball, though, where there's so many of us as players, we can see that we can be anything. We can be athletic directors, right? We can be GMs. We can be in the front offices of NBA teams. Look at Swin Cash. That kind of stuff, that's inspiring, it's admiring, and it's something that, with dedication, hard work, and doing things the right way, you'll be able to get there.
That's awesome. And I think that it's a perfect segue into my final question. We talked about goal setting. We talked about dreams. We talked about, just having something that is attainable, but it's not a layup. It's not something that you're just going to get done overnight, something that you've got to work towards. So, what is written on the proverbial shoe of Sharnee Zoll at this moment, at this point in your life, at this point in your career? What are you taking a look at and saying, hey, this is what I want to accomplish, and if I do this, it means I'm going to make everybody around me better. It means that I'm going to have put in a lot of work and I've achieved something extraordinary.
Yeah, so it's funny because we talk about the goals, right? And I used to be this little cocky kid with 729 on my shoe, and now, as a 34-year-old woman, I'm like, listen, I just want to be living right. Right? I want to be in this business that can sometimes get a little shaky, that can sometimes get a little cutthroat. I want to be the type of person that when I look in the mirror every single morning, I can say, you know what, Sharnee, you're doing it the right way. You are living in your purpose, and you're trying to be a beacon of God's light, right? That I'm doing it the right way. I'm worrying about my kids first. I'm worrying about the relationships. I'm worrying about, yes, wins and losses, because that's the business, but that's not what's coming first. What's coming first is how my kids are. Am I living the right way? Am I living in my truth? Am I helping my kids live in their truth? And if I can do that, and I can look at myself in the mirror in 5, 10, 15 years down the road, no matter what I'm doing, I'll be happy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Look, I'm excited because the season's about to tip off, and I'm gonna be able to, now when those scores pop up, I'm gonna be like, hey, that's my girl. She killing it. She got it going. So
if you see some pictures of me jumping up and down, just click next one, right? Just click the next one. I'm calm right now. As soon as the buzzer starts, and I get a little wild, but go Rhode all day.
That's all right. Hey, I appreciate you. I know it's a busy time. Season's about to tip off. Like I said, you're definitely on my Christmas list. I appreciate all the conversations, and each time we chat, I learn a little bit more. And you bring that level of inspiration that I think is important for girls that look like you. Bring that level of inspiration for girls that are navigating through their playing days right now, and may or may not have started to think about what it's going to look like when it's all said and done. So I appreciate you taking the time, and I know that somebody somewhere is better today for hearing from you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you for giving me a little platform to be able to speak on it. And if anybody watching has any questions or wants to reach out, more than welcome to.
Awesome. Talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you.